peaks together. We shine together. We move places together. We are everywhere. Together, we are the voice. Prime Television, feel the rhythm. We climb the peaks together. We shine together. We move places together. We are everywhere. Together, we are the voice. Prime Television, feel the rhythm.
Good evening and welcome to the second edition of Ask CDF. And of course, my name is McFarlane Munyanga. We are going to bring you into the perspective of the Constituency Development Fund. And of course, today we'll be looking at public awareness in the management of the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. Now, you may be aware that the Constituency Development Fund was first introduced in the year 1995. It is an establishment of the law in the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia, that is under Article number 162, and guided by the 2022 CDF guidelines under the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. In 2021, the government increased the amount of CDF from 1.6 million kwacha to 25.7 million kwacha per constituency, and expanded its scope from funding only community projects to youth, women and community empowerment, and secondary boarding school and skills development bursaries. The Constituency Development Fund guidelines have the objective of providing guidance on the management, disbursement, utilization and accountability of the Constituency Development Fund. The guidelines also provide clarity on the roles of and responsibilities of various stakeholders. And today's show is part of the Ask CDF project by the Alliance for Community Action, ACA. The project has the overall goal of promoting the voices of citizens in the management of the Constituency Development Fund. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second week of the Ask CDF TV series. And today's topic is discussion is actually public awareness in the management of the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. And my guest is Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, Mr. Mambo Hamaundu. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the program.
Good evening. It's good to be here.
Thank you very much. We are glad to have you today.
Well, look, it's always a good thing to come and have an opportunity to have a conversation, hear another perspective, and maybe from the onset I would like to express my gratitude to the Alliance for Community Action for sponsoring such an engagement. We need more of such engagement so that the awareness gap reduces, because we know that there's still some few information gaps here and there, maybe perhaps big, but with such engagement, I think that we will be narrowing the information gap, and we stand a higher chance of making progress as a team.
Correct. And now there's been a lot of issues, surrounding Constituency Development Fund and management, disbursement, and of course the actual processes that are involved in the same. What would you say is the main function of the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development in the management, disbursement, utilization, and accountability of the Constituency Development Fund?
Yeah, the buck stops on us. Everything starts with us and ends with us. So we have overall responsibility over the CDF in terms of ensuring that there's accountability, there's transparency. The buck really stops on us. As you've asked, at times people indeed ask questions there, what is your role, what is your responsibility in this aspect? Some of the roles that we are playing as a ministry, are that of ensuring that we offer the necessary guidance to the local authorities, offer the necessary guidance to the ward development committees, offer necessary guidance to the zonal leaders. And you might be interested to actually note that, you know, when committees are constituted, before they can be called ward development committees, they need to be approved by the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. So that is one of the roles of the ministry through the minister. It is that of endorsing the decision of the people in terms of who they've identified to be their ward development committee representatives. And beyond that, it escalates, it follows that even for the Constituency Development Fund Committee, it is effectively endorsed by the minister. And of course, when the procedures and protocols of identification of projects are done by members of the ward development committees, constituency development committees, they are again forwarded to the Ministry of Local Government for the minister to again endorse, that is, agree, or in instances where it is not in line with the guidelines, disagree. So we offer oversight. And I've been mentioning endorsing. You'd perhaps be interested, or you'd ask a question to say, is it an academic exercise? Is it a situation where Katua constituency comes with a piece of paper to say, these are our projects, and we just receive as a ministry, give them to the minister, and he appends his signature? That's not the case. What we do is, we have put together a team which is looking or carrying out some kind of evaluation on what has been presented. Remember, when you're looking at the guidelines are actually very, very precise to say what we are presenting as a constituency should be, it must be information coming from integrated development plans where they do exist. So we utilize that opportunity to see to it to say, how is this sitting in? Is it within the guidelines? If it is okay, then we make a recommendation to the minister to say, Honorable Minister, you may consider appending your signature on this particular document because it meets all the parameters that have been prescribed. So that is one of our roles. Secondly, I've indicated to say we offer oversight. There's what is referred to as monitoring and evaluation. Now that most of the projects have been approved and activities have commenced, it is one of our responsibilities to go in and assess the impact that the decisions that have been made by the community, that is the ward development committees and the constituency, are having on the lives of the people within the constituency generally. When we look at things, for instance, like skills development, you have been given an opportunity to go to school via a skills development bursary. We want to know the impact it is having on your life. What change has it resulted in you having been trained as a plumber, as a carpenter, as a bricklayer? Are you utilizing that skill? That is the kind of information that we'll be looking at. We need to have that feedback because it is such feedback which will inform us in terms of the next policy recommendation that we need to make to government. Of course, as we are doing all this, we have to keep sight of the 8th National Development Plan because that is what we will define our developmental agenda right up to 2026. So we have to ensure that whatever we do is in line with the developmental agenda of the country. So that is mainly what our role is. It is that of offering oversight when it comes to the Constituency Development Fund.
All right. There's been also an issue to do with, when the invitation for proposals is actually called. When do the local authorities invite project proposals from the community?
Ideally, they are supposed to call for proposals in the first 1, 2, 3 months of the year for the following year. But remember, I think in your introduction, you did actually indicate to say this is the expanded CDF. So in this instance, for 2022, what actually transpired was the guidelines were released were ready in February 2022. That's when they were launched. And it is after that that proposals where we began to, or the local authorities actually started calling for proposals from the community. And as you might be aware, there were issues around people not really knowing, in inverted commas, on what to do. There was talk to say the guidelines are complex and so on and so forth. But from a ministry, we actually did realize to say this is just a question of lack of information. This is a question of people thinking when they look at a book, it is looking thick like this. They are wondering what is contained in there. And because McFarlane is an opinion maker and mover, when McFarlane says, hey, in that book, I saw what is in that book. There are a lot of write-ups, there are a lot of secrets. And they'll believe you because it is you are McFarlane. But when somebody else comes and opens and says, look, this is what McFarlane is telling you. Look at this book, you are saying there are lots of things. It's blank. There's nothing, or there are just a few write-ups. You will then begin to say, okay, let's take time and understand what is in the guidelines. So that is what we did as a ministry. We engaged through platforms such as this one. At any opportunity we had, we engaged the public to just appraise them on what is contained in the guidelines. I remember there was a time when, just the proportions or the distribution of the resources, it's something which we had to do. We had to go out there and tell the public to say, of the total amount, 5% is set aside for administrative costs. Then the balance is distributed in the following ratios. 20% is available for bursaries and skills development. 20% is for the youth, women, and community empowerment. And within this 20%, we are saying 40% of this 20, or 40 kwacha in every 100 kwacha is available for grants. 60 kwacha is available for loans. That is the information we're passing on to the public. And then we also said, on the community projects component, which is 60%, we are saying the local authorities have been guided to say, as the ward development committees and the constituency development committees are setting their priorities, they must set aside 5% for possible emergencies, contingencies, and then the rest of it, they can allocate it for community projects. You're looking at boreholes, you're looking at feeder roads, you're looking at schools, you're looking at, in some instances, mortuaries. You're looking at the community needs. What does the community need? What does Katua constituency need? What does Kembe nearby here need? What is the need of the people in Chitambo? That is the money which government has said, this is available for you to make a decision. So those are some of the initiatives which we took, of course, with collaboration and cooperation with the media as a key and strategic partner, and a number of cooperating partners actually came on board to try and help sensitize the public. And I'm happy to say that 6-7 months down the line, the picture is far much better, and we're actually happy with what we're seeing at the ministry. The number of proposals which are coming through, it's incredible. We had actually given a deadline to say by the 31st of August, we want to have a situation where all the 156 constituencies would have committed the amount of money, that is the 25.7, to an activity. Now, when I say committed, I'm simply saying all the constituencies must have budgeted or planned on how they want to use the 25.7, not just by way of speaking. They should have actually put it in writing. There will be resolutions and agreement to say, this is what we've agreed on. This is how we'll spend the 25.7, which has been given to us by government in the year 2022, so that the minister can append his signature and the work must commence where it has not commenced and continue where it is already in place. The whole idea is to ensure that the machinery keeps on moving. We keep on rolling so that development is being actualized, because it is not helping, or it will not help yourself, myself, or the viewers out there to say we have a plan. What is a plan if it is not being actualized? So We realize, say, a plan is important. That's why we gave a deadline to say, show us your plan, and then afterwards, you need to actualize. Now, when it comes to actualization, this is where at times the public out there tend to say that, no, abachedwa, ndalama ziliko, why isofno zichosa, ndalama nizatu izi. Yes, the money is yours. Government has made this resource available. But what we must also realize is that public resource, ndalama za chalo, ndalama za ziko, lubono ruajisi, should be spent in a particular way. So there's the ZPPA Act. When you want to hire a contractor to build a school, you don't just go the way McFarlane, you and I, when we leave this studio, I can actually pass through ShopRite just down the road here and say I want to buy bread. If I have the money in the pocket, I'll just remove the money and pay for the bread. I might only be accountable to my wife. Or my wife might not even know how much money I have in my pocket. For public money, it is different. You must be accountable. That's why the ZPPA Act must be followed. The Procurement Act must be followed, because this is our collective money. So it prescribes how the money will be used. So that's why you find that a tender committee has to be in place to evaluate proposals. I gave an example of construction. We want to build a clinic, at 10 miles, or maybe a bit down the road near the Chief's Palace, if we want to sink a borehole there, or perhaps put another block to expand the clinic. Yes, the community have said this is what needs to be done. But when it comes to engaging a contractor, the council now will go out there and say, within Katuba constituency, who is it that is able to do this work? If you're able to do this work, come through to Chibombo City Council, put your proposal to say you're able to do this work. At what cost? So this is what actually happens is the council now will prepare what is known as a bidding document. They will prescribe what they'll be looking for amongst people in Chibombo. Then, when this information comes forth, the council will sit and evaluate. They'll be picking. We said you must meet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 criteria. Are you meeting it? Yes, set aside. If you're not meeting it, they disqualify you. At the end of the day, there will be a preferred bidder or bidders. McFarlane is the one who's been chosen. Hamaundu has been rejected because maybe his price is too high. They will then notify Hamaundu, who's been rejected, to say, we now intend to offer this tender to McFarlane. So that if I'm aggrieved and I feel that perhaps there's something dubious that McFarlane did in getting this tender, I'm given an opportunity to say, I think that the process might not have been transparent because McFarlane went and gave this council officer money. Why did he do that? And of course, the onus is on me, because I cannot just go and allege to say McFarlane was involved in a corrupt practice, because that's a serious allegation. But the Act realizes to say you still need to give that opportunity. But eventually, since we know McFarlane is not corrupt, he's awarded the contract. And what is the next thing that needs to be happened? The contract is signed. And of course, in between all this, whenever you are signing, or a local authority is signing a contract on behalf of government, it is necessary that the Attorney General's chambers are aware of this contract which you are signing. They check for you, because there could be legal language which you do not understand, or you could actually be committing the council and therefore the people of this country to an obligation which you might not understand. So the Attorney General looks at the contract and tells you to say, I think this is okay, according to what we have heard and what is written on paper here. The contract is for building of a classroom block. The cost is 80,000 kwacha, and there are no extra or hidden costs or responsibilities that will be placed upon you as a council and therefore as a country without you knowing. So Attorney General Chambers clears that. An agreement is made, and the next thing that needs to be done is McFarlane must build. Build to the prescribed standard, because the specs, the specifications would be there. So this is how the CDF is actually being crafted. And I would like to believe that we are now in September, going into October, November, December. We are going to see a lot of activity, because most of these procurement procedures would have been done with. But the easier ones are boarding fees, bursaries. If my child has been identified as being vulnerable, and he or she is going at Kenishas, maybe in Monze, government has said they are willing to pay the boarding fee. So government makes that payment to Kanishas. That is easy. And it ends there. My responsibility as a parent is to ensure that my child goes to Kanishas. My responsibility is to ensure that my child has got the appropriate uniform, has got the appropriate food, has got everything else other than the boarding fee, so that they go out there and learn. It's a similar thing with skills development. Government is saying, we realize to say, you are a youth, you are a young person who has a lot of potential, but what is lacking is you don't have a piece of paper to support your qualification, to say your competence rather. So government says, go into a trade school, we will pay for you. Your job is to ensure that you go there and learn. If there are any other extra costs associated with learning, that is your responsibility, because government is helping. It is not taking over the entire responsibility, because I've heard a few instances where people are saying, no, manje isekaidi, manje watili pilila kuskulu, manje dzambo enda bwanji, manje dzamba kudia bwanji. You know, it is sometimes people expect so much from government to the point where some actually become lazy. You know, it is, instead of being vulnerable, as in vulnerable as not having a resource to enter a school, they actually become vulnerable because their mindset is that of just wanting to get, and not give. The whole idea around here is we need to uplift one another. As government is giving you an opportunity to go into this skills training college, government is also helping itself in that when we've got a number of skilled people, the levels of productivity in the country will improve. When productivity is high, it means our society will become richer. And when our society is richer, it means our livelihoods will be better. And I think that's the aspiration that all of us have. Regardless of your socio-economic status at the moment, we all aspire for a better life. But it is important that we work towards accomplishing that. That is what CDF is all about. It is offering opportunities, great opportunities, and it's up to the people out there to harness them. CDF is offering opportunities to develop constituencies, improve the infrastructure within the constituencies, have water where you do not have water, so that your mother, my sister, do not have to walk 10 kilometers to go and draw water. When there's a resource which is available to say we could actually sink a borehole at a particular point. And beyond just sinking a borehole, we could go a bit further and use this borehole as actually a reticulation point. That is, put some pipes in 2 villages so that the lives of the people in the rural parts of the country are improved. So it is about improvement. The only goodness or the advantage that is there is it is you and I to make that decision. It is you to say, this is what we need. And I did mention much earlier to say you have to refer to integrated development plans. The background of development and of an integrated development plan is consultative. All the stakeholders have to be engaged. You have to ask, inquire, what is it that we need in Chiwombo district? Where do we need it placed? And agree as a people. Of course, when I say agree as a people, it doesn't mean that each and every single person will be consulted. But in every community, there are critical stakeholders. There are those who put themselves out as available to identify the needs of the people. So they will contribute so that generally, when we now all say we need a clinic in Chiwombo, everyone will say yes. And when you say we need it to be placed at this point, majority of the people will agree to say that is where it must be placed. That is what CDF is actually presenting.
All right. Now, there has been this whole issue surrounding CDF and how the processes are actually undergone for people to access CDF. And they are saying that the processes are just too strenuous and that there is no money. Those are speculations that are actually, flaring around. And also the fact that there is no project according to, information we actually have been obtaining on the ground, that there is actually no project that has been approved yet. And we are actually getting into another quarter that would actually have been a very easy thing for it to be done away with, and then we embark on the second quarter. Now, the issue surrounding information dissemination, maybe you can highlight also the framework of information dissemination to the community, because they are actually seemingly not aware of what is going on surrounding CDF and how to actually go through the processes. And also, I would like you to add the aspect of, whether the ministry actually, have a public awareness mechanism on informing, the community members when and how to apply.
This is why I think from the beginning, I actually said I must express my gratitude to Alliance for Community Action for such an opportunity, because they are helping us to disseminate information, to inform the public out there. I might sit here and tell you to say, we have a website, that maybe you have not a chance to visit our website. I might sit here and tell you to say, we've got a Facebook page, that maybe you don't have access to Facebook. I might sit here and tell you to say, we have been making public announcements, but maybe at the time we're making that public announcement, you were not available. You did not hear us speak. So the critical thing is, from my perspective, I think it is necessary that we continue engaging the public, using whatever available means that are offered to us as a ministry. We have, of course, a PR unit at our ministry, and periodically they issue statements. But statements are just but statements. At times, people will not read. Others will read the statement or will hear what has been said. But beyond that, what I'm actually happy with is that I might even want to watch your news today as Prime TV. Chances are there will be an item on CDF. And when I also listen to various radio stations, watch various TV channels, there is usually news about CDF. So in terms of information dissemination, I think that the information is being shared. But of course, there is also need to do more, because for a person out there to say there might be no money, it means that the people who are near this person might not be well informed for them to even say, look, you are saying there's no money for this. Didn't you watch on Prime TV the other day how the Minister of Local Government in Chelenge was handing over a grader which was bought using CDF? Isn't that Constituency Development Fund money? Did you not watch on the Copper Belt where the members, one of the members of parliament in, should be Ndona Central and Chifubu, were actually giving out grants? Did you not watch people in Chipata launching an activity of grading a road? Now, how does this all happen if there's no money? It is not possible. It is just that at times, people, when they say there is no money, what they perhaps want is a situation where government gets into its pocket and removes physical money and gives McFarlane.
Directly.
Yes. That when government is working on a feeder road, they don't see money there. When government procures a grader, some people don't see money there. So it's also important that we put things in the right context. And when we're actually saying the country must be developed and we must work, it is exactly this. Even the question of sensitization of people, sensitizing the masses, this is the part of work which we need to do. Because when people have got knowledge, when people have got information, they participate more in community projects or activities. And when there's a high level of awareness, there's accountability and transparency. You know, if today you got to hear that Kawata constituency, where I reside, has given a grant to Hamaundu Cooperative, it will raise a lot of questions. Because they're saying, now, how is Hamaundu getting money? Is he not abusing resource? You know, you ask yourself questions, but beyond that, when you ask those questions, it would mean that you would have to put Hamaundu on the spot. Say, did you do this? Then Hamaundu actually say, no, Bantu. There are other Hamaundus. And I'm not even related to those Hamaundus. Who are they? Maybe I must know them. They could be my relations. So awareness is very important, because where there's awareness, there's accountability, there's transparency, because I can reverse this same scenario. If indeed it is true that it is me who's getting a grant, then questions will be asked to say, why is it that Hamaundu is getting a grant? Do you qualify? I have to exonerate myself. If I qualify, fair and fine. And then I'll say, allow me now to utilize this grant for its intended purpose. We have a cooperative of 25 men who are involved in businesses here and there within Kawata constituency, and we actually applied to the Ward Development Committee in our ward Livala, and they made a recommendation that we be given this money because they know that from this money, using the village banking concept, when Hamaundu borrows, he will expand his small business. When McFarlane also, when Hamaundu pays back, McFarlane will borrow the same money, expand their business, and the next person will do a similar thing. And these small businesses within the community will actually be employing 1 person, 2 persons, and when we look at it in total, we'll be employing perhaps 10 people. And where do we get these goods that we are selling in these shops of ours or the businesses that we're involved in? We go into town, we go into Kamwala. When we are buying things in there, we are paying tax indirectly. We are contributing to the revenue basket of the country. And this is how an economy begins to develop. An economy begins to grow. Because the more tax revenue is made available, the more chances that government at the center will use these resources to improve the livelihoods of the people.
All right.
It's all in the Constituency Development Fund. So the Constituency Development Fund is about you, it's about me, it's about the person out there. You may not have a direct benefit, as in you actually getting the money, but if opportunities are created for your brothers and sisters, for your neighbors, for that person who comes to you to ask for wo ishaniko ten kwacha kablu hapa nikweleko bus, they will no longer come to you, and that 10 kwacha can be used elsewhere. That is how the CDF will actually resolve a number of critical issues.
All right. Now, the aim of the CDF is actually to empower local communities in determining their path by identifying and prioritizing projects according to their needs. However, people have complained that there is influence from councillors and members of parliament on what is identified as community needs. What is the ministry doing in ensuring that the identification of our community needs is not politically influenced?
Interesting question, and you know, just an hour ago, we were attending a conference, an ILGAS conference, and this is one of the issues that the president of the Local Government Association of Zambia raised to say, or it's a statement he actually made to say, we don't need to politicize CDF. The President of the Republic of Zambia has been very categorical about it, to say CDF is not for the Member of Parliament, CDF is not for the Mayor, CDF is not for the Councillor. CDF is for the people of the constituency and therefore the people of the country. So it is money which has been made available for the communities, and politicking around it is not something which we need to do. And one of the things that we have done as a ministry to just demonstrate, to say there are no politics about it. The political decisions or scores were settled on the 12th of August, when you and I, when the people out there decided to say, this is the government that we have in place. So from government, when we are dispersing constituency development fund, we do not sit there and say, which constituency are we going to start from? Should we start from Kabwata, because the Member of Parliament is from the ruling party? Or should we go to Mandevu, because the Member of Parliament is opposition? No. We simply say, this is constituency development fund, and it will be distributed to all the constituencies. So when we make disbursements to all the 156 constituencies at the same time. If constituencies were human beings who had cell phones, a message can carry the same time, Zangen, everyone, uniform. The only difference maybe would be 5-10 minutes because of the bank that you are banking with. But money is distributed to all the constituencies at the same time. Secondly, we have been speaking and advising people to say this money is for the community. And it's important that the message has been cascading downwards from the president. But of course, you still have incidences where a few people want to offer resistance. That is how life is. You'd have a few people here and there who want to say that, no, with me, for as long as I'm a Member of Parliament, this will not happen. If you're a Member of Parliament, if you're a councillor, if you are a council chairperson, and you strongly feel about a certain developmental item within the ward where you reside, all you need to do is speak to the people who are members of the Constituency Development Committee. Convince them to see your point of view. Show them why you would want to have a borehole and not put up a clinic which the people are suggesting. You must demonstrate to them to say, this is more important than the other. So it's about engagement. We need to reach a level as a people where we can engage, we can talk to one another and agree. And when we say we are agreeing, you know, it doesn't always mean that when you're the four of you and you're having a conversation, all the four will agree. We could have three and one is not agreeing. That will be taken as an agreement. So the issue of our civic leaders or other elected leaders having and bearing or making forcing decisions on the constituency development committees must not arise. Remember, members of the constituency development committees or ward development committees are volunteers. They do it because they are passionate about developing their constituency. That's why they volunteered. They are not paid. They work for you and I, free of charge. They spend, at times they utilize their talk time. At times you'd actually say no, but they are called by the council. Yes, they could be called by the council, but when the council is making a call to you, your battery is finishing, you need to go and charge your phone. When you are charging your phone, you are using units, but using your money. So they are volunteers who have decided to sacrifice, because for them, what they need is to see an improvement in their area.
All right.
Of course, government has also said that in instances where you have to go a long distance, government will then extend a helping hand, because you're a volunteer. That's why I'm saying it's a helping hand. If you're an employee, it's different. You are paid for it. But when you're a volunteer, government will extend a helping hand to say, let us subsidize your fuel costs. You are going to sleep at a place because of CDF. Let us subsidize for now your cost of food. It's a one-off activity.
All right.
So that is what is actually obtaining.
Well, I know you actually, highlighted and gave a response surrounding the process, in accessing CDF, and of course some of the stages that are actually supposed to be passed through. Now, citizens have actually complained that the application process is actually long. Now, the last part that I would want you to respond is, are there any plans, to make the process simple and straightforward for ordinary citizens?
Plans to improve a system are always there and will always be there. But what is important is, when McFarlane comes to me and says, Hammond, you are a problem, you are not helping me. You must tell me how I am a problem. You must tell me to say, Hammond, the reason I think you're a problem, it is because you are not giving me a chance to ask you questions. You are taking too much time responding to questions. Then I'll sit and realize to say, okay, am I really a problem? And if I am, I'll have to give in to say, I commit to change. So similarly, we have received a number of generic sentiments to say the processes are long. I'll give you an example, a practical example. You have a child, McFarlane. You are telling us to say you don't have sufficient money to pay school fees for your child, and therefore you are vulnerable. So you make an application at your zone. The zone actually agreed to say, yes, no, McFarlane, McFarlane is struggling now. But mwana wake ananzero. Anapasa no pass. You are given, the recommendation goes. And then eventually the minister signs. And your child's school fees are paid. Is that a long process? Is that a tedious process? The complaint generally that was very prominent in the early stages was the aspects around registration of cooperatives. A number of people wanted to register cooperatives, and some of the institutions that were responsible for registering these cooperatives were overwhelmed. And because of that, there was a genuine complaint to say there are delays. But that is now in the past. Cooperatives have been registered. The only other thing that they need to do is, you're a cooperative, you've come together. What is it that you want to accomplish? You've applied for a grant. Once you put in your application, all you need to do is wait. And if the Consensus Development Committee agrees with your proposal, you are given the money. If they disagree, they will tell you to say, we disagree. Your proposal has not been accepted because, one, you have failed here, there, and there. Or there is no money today. We have banked it for next year. So all those responses will be made available. What is interesting for us is that it has generated a lot of attention and excitement. People want to get involved, and the more people get involved, the better it is for us, because we know that there will be more accountability, there will be more transparency, and as we go on, things will become a bit better.
All right.
I'm an ardent lover of football, and I often like to give examples of football. You are smiling. What was the result between Manchester United and Arsenal? 3-1. Manchester United won. And many people there know. They will even tell you to say Rashford scored 2 goals. The new boy Anthony scored the first goal and he was substituted. Before that, Arsenal had actually scored, but the goal was disqualified because there was a foul somewhere in the center circle where Eriksson was dropped. That is the level of information that people know there about Manchester United. They also tell you to say, Man City wanachiplayer chigari china 10 goals man. They have that information. They will tell you today to say, Coach wa Chelsea, vampisha nchito ndanaruza Champions League. This is the level of excitement and awareness that we need in CDF.
You're right.
So that we can all be saying, Ndarama CDF ni so na so na so.
Okay. Now, where can community members obtain application forms for grants and bursaries?
The quickest way where they can obtain this is to go to the council offices. If the application forms are not available there, each of the 156 constituencies have got a constituency office. They got the constituency offices. The personal assistants to the members of parliament must have these application forms. And in the early stages of CDF, we had actually given the local authorities an instruction to say they must make these forms as available as possible. We encourage them to make them available in schools, in hospitals or clinics, in churches, in any places where there's of social gathering, so that it is easy for people to access these forms. But we're also living in an era which is of ICT. These forms have been made available in some instances online. For instance, as a ministry, we had placed the guidelines and the application forms on our website, and a few people have accessed them. And I think going forward, since we are now living in an ICT community where people just need to pick a phone, they check and they see what is there, and they'll probably go and print on their own, fill out the form. All the local authorities need to ensure that they have functional websites. And this is a project which the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development is actually embracing with both hands, because we want to leverage on ICT for accountability and transparency. Because in the olden days, I say in the olden days because I look at you, McFarlane, you are slightly younger than me. Where were you in 1985?
I was just a year old, I think.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's my perception is correct. In 1985, I was in grade 7 myself. I wrote an exam and the results came out. That time, the source of information was the notice board at the school, at Kabwata Primary School. So before I could know what my results were, other people within the community knew, because they just went to the notice board. And I remember that day when the results came out, I was actually having lunch at home. I just heard people screaming outside, "Hey, mambo, wapasa, wapasa, taeona zina yako." It was on the notice board. Information availability. That is what was happening then. But now, we are using or utilizing a lot of social media.
Yes.
Social media will always have breaking news, updates.
Yes.
So we want all the local authorities, all the PRI units in the local authorities to develop that capacity to interact. They use their website, they use Facebook, they use TikTok, whatever channel that is available to communicate information to the public so that people are in the know. That encourages accountability and transparency. When people know what is happening, chances are they will move with you.
All right.
When you go the wrong direction, they will tell you, hey, boss, there, Mwaruvian, do this way.
In a nutshell, you know, there were, you know, announcements of extending the applications for boarding, secondary and schools bursaries in some constituencies. Other constituencies even indicated that they would be considering applying for variations rather, due to lower applications for this particular component. What is the application process for secondary school bursaries and skills development, and what components of costs does the bursary cover, if any, apart from tuition fees?
It's basically tuition fees, and that is what it covers: is tuition fees or boarding fees. That's what the bursaries or skills development component covers. And the application process, I think I alluded to it earlier on. Then there's also been an aspect of variation of funds, wanting to vary funds, which is something which is permitted or allowed, because government has actually said, we've given you money for bursaries, it's defined, it's 20%. If you utilize half of that money, and according to the members of the constituency development committees, you know, you would have actually paid for all the possible people who had applied to access these funds, because you assess vulnerability. You identify to say there are 10 people who qualify. And from these 10 people who qualify to access this bursary, we have paid for all of them. They are all in boarding schools, they are all in skills development, and we've paid for the required period of time. And we are remaining with change. At that point, you are allowed to apply for a variation. Because if you do not apply for a variation, this money will just be sitting there idle, doing nothing. So you now apply for a variation to say, here we've satisfied our educational needs. What we need is to now put up a dormitory in Kanchiria. So we want to vary funds from the bursaries component to the community projects. What all that they need to do is the Constituency Development Committee will sit and make the necessary approvals. Then the council will write the ministry to say, we want resources to be varied for Kanchiria constituencies from the bursaries to the community project. And for us as a ministry, as a parent ministry, we now take it upon ourselves to say, under the Public and Finance Act, the office which is responsible for varying public resources is that of the Secretary to Treasury.
Okay.
We write Secretary to Treasury. Say, sir, Secretary to Treasury, these are the circumstances existing in this constituency, and we are therefore applying that funds be varied, so that the Secretary to the Treasury, as one of the custodians of resources of the country, permits us or permits the constituency to utilize the resource on a different component but within the same budget line.
All right.
That's about utilization of public resource. Remember earlier on I gave an example of me going into ShopRite to buy bread. For me it is different. If as I'm going to ShopRite and I want to buy bread, and it turns out to say at home I actually have bread because I've received a phone call from my wife to say no, all I need to do to say, okay, what is not there? She will say, no, it's milk, and I'll make a decision there and then. But for public resources, you can't make that decision. It's the Secretary to Treasury who's allowed to vary funds.
All right.
Instead of buying bread, he will allow you to buy milk. If he doesn't allow you, instead of buying bread, you buy milk. Even if milk is nutritious for your body, these are instances where you find that no Hamaundu has been arrested for abuse of resources or failure to comply with regulation.
All right.
Public resources. It's
All right.
very important that we follow laid down procedure.
I actually wanted you to just under 1 minute, give or tell the viewers out there how unsuccessful applications are handled. Just under 1 minute.
Well, the way unsuccessful applications are handled or must be handled, it is you need to be informed. If you had applied for a bursary, the members of the Constituency Development Committee must inform you why your application has not been successful. Because there's criteria which they check. So if they've discovered that to say you are not vulnerable, they actually tell you to say, according to our vulnerability check, we've checked with people from community development, you are not vulnerable. So they will inform you. If it is if you had applied for a community project, you wanted to put up a road. That is what I mentioned in terms of tendering. But for individuals who want to access the CDF fund, you needed a grant. If you are not given a grant, you should be notified to say, the reason you've not been given a grant, it is because this is not in the categories of CDF, or the constituency has exhausted all the resources. So it's similar. When you apply for work, again, I'll go back into history. In the olden day, when you apply for work, even when you are rejected, they will write you, dear sir, reference is made to your application of so. We regret to inform you that your application has been unsuccessful. However, we have kept your information on file for future consideration. It used to happen like that. It's a similar thing that needs to happen now. You tell people, you communicate. It's necessary that you communicate.
That's a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And of course, today we were actually looking at a public awareness in the management of the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. My name is McFarlane Munyanga. We will be back next week at the same time. Have a pleasant evening.
We climb the peaks together. We shine together. We move places together.